Everybody, welcome to the Release Alert. Here's a quick update on the short term, and then we'll get into Irma stuff here in just a second. First off, radar's been lit up here today with these heavy downpours passing through. The moisture, again, now the front's kind of getting a little more tilted east-west, so the moisture's taking forever to get out of our area, and that's why these downpours are kind of feeding along the front until it pushes to the south. Some decent rain totals, though, out of this. Some spots, 3/4 of an inch around PRP near Valley Station, a half inch, and a little more than that across Fern Creek, very little to the north. But once again, the southern part of the county got a lot of it. Even on the mesonets, some decent totals where the gauges were about a half inch, the Murphyville, but you can see the heavy rain just the south, probably where that sensor was located at. But the dry air is working its way in. Again, it's going to take some time, but it's getting there. And then once that does, we'll get into that partly sunny sky, and then it'll feel a lot better for tonight. Now, we're not going to be entirely down with the moisture because we're going to get the backlash moisture field over us tomorrow. Classic setup you would see in the fall and spring, and that could lead to cumulus clouds forming, and we'll get to that in just a second. Here's the RPM model. Overall, it looks good for how it initialized. Looks good for the afternoon as we get back into the 70s. And then tonight's kind of a cool night tonight. 50s in the city, but some 40s possible outside the city limits. And then tomorrow, we begin to get into that cyclonic flow and that upper low. We will likely start to see cumulus clouds develop. If we go overcast for more than a couple hours or two, then we're going to end up running in a situation where highs are only in the 60s. If we get just a little bit of sunshine, that'll be enough to get us over at 70-degree mark, like 70 to 72. But how thick the clouds are and for how long, that's going to be key. And that's something, and even a spotty shower on top of that. All right, so let's get to Irma. Category 5. It's been the headline all day. It's got that classic buzzsaw look to it. Heading right into the Leeward Islands here, and then it should jog just north of there, but it's going to be, it's a massive system. Everybody's looking at the eye, but you can't. Look how large this thing is. So even if it passes north of Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, Haiti, even Cuba, going to get slammed with very heavy rain and a lot of wind, even if the eye never comes on shore. So this is going to be a mess for the Caribbean. But then notice that sharp turn there to the north. We'll come back to that in just a second. Here's the official forecast from the Hurricane Center, keeping it roughly at a 4, potentially at a 5 status. Moves it very close to between Cuba and the Keys. A lot of wiggle room here on how this is going to play out. When you look at the two comparisons of the models, GFS and the Euro, the new Euro will come in later, but the Euro this morning was trying to take it right over Cuba, which is a mountainous terrain. It would disrupt it briefly, but not entirely diminish Irma. GFS avoids it. It's right into Florida. They both kind of go up Florida, but here's the thing. When you get cyclones like this, they very rarely will go like that, right up the middle. Because of the pressure difference in the water of the ocean and land, you're going to either have them come on one shore and then come out the other, or kind of hug along one shore and then come inland. It's going to be one of the two options. We just got to figure out which side of Florida is it going to enter onto, and it's just too early to even know that much. But I think having a state of emergency, at least for Florida, was certainly a good call by the governor. And then Euro kind of slows it down a bit once you get into northern Florida, and then the GFS begins to zip it on up into the northeast part of the country. GFS rainfall, again, the core of the rain, the more that sharp turn is, the heaviest of rain will go to our east, while the Euro idea would take it a little more toward the northwest, and it kind of fizzles out. So it does head toward us, but kind of just stalls, which is not good for Georgia and the Carolinas. So even that has some question marks to it. And here's the reason why. This is a pressure field. Here's Irma. This is high pressure in through here. And here's the trough up to the north of us here. All right, now watch what happens. As we head, this is the GFS. As we head into the Saturday period, the high is to the north, so it's blocking Irma. So Irma has no choice but to keep going west for a while. There is a weak little trough. It's not showing up here across portions of the southern plains. It's going to be dropping down around that high. Now that's going to help, as well as the high beginning to weaken to pull Irma northbound. The question is, how strong is that high going to have a grip on the Ohio Valley and the little trough that's over here to the west? That will determine in the angle that Irma takes and how sharp it returns. So this is the key factor, really, that we're going to be facing. And this, by the way, could be Jose if it develops. And then it heads quickly to north and east as we get a trough. That's the green area. It's another cold front. Cold fronts, or tropical systems like cold fronts, they'll begin that turn. And then when you look at the Euro idea, very similar with it. There's your high, but it blocks a little longer. It's a little bit stronger of a high, as you can see there. So it blocks it, so it's a little more of a western jog. That's why it takes it over Cuba. And then as the high loses its grip, then we begin to see that turn there to the north, and then it kind of stalls out because there's not much. Instead of a trough coming in, it's a ridge building, and therefore everything begins to slow down for the Ural. So it's two similar ideas of how it sort of approaches Cuba and Florida in a general sense, but then after that, we know there's going to be a turn, but how sharp of a turn and how quickly that forward motion is, don't know those answers yet, guys. So stay tuned. For right now, we'll just trend the earliest alert into a cloudy setup about the 12th or the 14th, and we'll just see how that plays out as we get closer into time. So it's going to be a crazy forecast for our friends to the south, so let's be thinking about them. They're certainly going to be in a horrible situation in the next several days ahead.